It's championship weekend for the Pirelli World Challenge Series, and the setting simply couldn't be more fitting. After an 8-year absence, the series returns to a true road racing mecca. A stellar field of GTS class contestants will determine the winners for overall and sprint championships, as well as for manufacturers and teams, all on a track truly revered and known simply as the Glen. Watkins Glen International may be the perfect place to host a season finale. And of course, it is that time indeed. It's the Grand Prix of Watkins Glen presented by TM Performance today, the final round of the GTS Championship Chase for the Pirelli World Challenge at this legendary venue. And the weather, absolutely beautiful right now. And I'll tell you what, as I welcome you all, I'm Greg Creamer along with Calvin Fish, Ryan Marine covering all of the developments down in pit lane for us. When you take a look at all the things that are falling into place here, Cal, you add in where we are, you look at this weather, I think we could quote the legendary Jackie Stewart and say it's a great day for motor racing.
It really is. It's a great day to run this GT4 machinery around this legendary racetrack, Greg. Just under 3.4 miles, 11 turns. There's no giveaways here. You have to work every single corner and execute to perfection. And we certainly saw that yesterday, but the championships have certainly tightened up. A lot on the line here today.
We've had pendulum swings. We have had a little bit of everything. So just looking forward to this one to unfold. And we talk about how immensely popular this track is. Well, let's give you a ride around with the reigning 24-hour of Le Mans winner.
Hi, this is Michael Christensen driving the 24 Allegra Motorsports Porsche 911 GT3R. This is your Porsche track preview at Watkins Glen International. Coming down here at the straightaway, coming up to the first corner, braking it around the 300 mark and just trying to stabilize the car as good as possible, get a turn early and get on power early. It's a bit downhill here, use all the exit, a bit downhill here, but then going into a compression, going a very steep uphill, therefore trying not to steer as much as possible and then just try to use all the revs you have been allowed to use in order to accelerate as good as possible up the hill. Braking uphill for the bus stop is therefore able to brake late and take as much curb as possible here without upsetting the car too much, but also trying to keep the momentum as well into the next right-hander here, try to stay tight and yeah, keep the throttle down in order to stabilize the rear. Also going into the next left-hander here, downhill banked, a lot of grip, but therefore quite tough to keep it on the inside tight. As well here coming into the next right-hander, also compression, braking uphill, you can brake really late, and also a tough time getting on power here as the rear wants to step away. Going down to the next corner here, braking at the 200 mark, a bit of a banked corner as well, but it's a bit of a hairpin too, so the balance of the car changes a bit throughout that corner. Also going up to the next left-hander here, you brake uphill, but then it flattens out, therefore you start to lose the rear. As well in the exit, just use all the track width you can. Going into the second last corner, also very banked corner, trying to keep the momentum and keep the speed through here, but then lining up the car as good as possible for the last corner. And also very important to get good momentum and speed through there into the straightaway. This was one lap with Michael Christensen at Watkins Glen International.
I love that sound. As you take a look at the race analysis, just under 3.4 miles, 11 turns. Obviously, the two things that stand out to me quickly, Cal, are the speed because of the grip and the layout of the track, but also there are areas here, very narrow corridors.
It really is. It's an old-fashioned racetrack, so it has high consequence. There's not the big safety zones that you see on some of the more modern-day circuits, but I love it. It certainly provides great racing, good braking opportunities around this circuit.
Yeah, it is something very special indeed. Wonderful to be here, obviously. So it is time for us to get down to the front of the grid for that very special command to set the season finale race underway.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Steve Shard and the Forge Line family to give the command to start engines. And the Forge Line family says, drivers, start your engines!
Absolutely fantastic, and this big field springs to life. Thank you. That's Ryan Marine. Obviously, we're going to be hearing a lot from him as this race unfolds. And we got 22 cars that are lined up and getting ready to go. 2 different categories, the GTS class for the pro drivers, the GTSA. And we have seen some amazing developments in both of them. Let's get to our Pirelli storylines. And the first thing is, can this guy, James Safronis, in the number 14 Global Motorsports Group Audi, pull off a triple?
Well, appropriately, the number 14 has a 14-point lead, Greg, so you'd certainly think that it's in his favor right now, but he needs a 9th place finish to clinch it. So there's a lot on the line here, and he's going for his 5th title in 2 seasons.
Yeah, pretty remarkable. Already clinched the overall combined championship with his run yesterday. The manufacturer battle, a whole different story. There are 4 manufacturers in a real small space.
Yeah, within 5 points. Audi has a 2-point lead coming in, but it can go any way here during the course of this race.
And you're watching that beautiful number 99 X Analytics Maserati of Jeff Courtney. Came into the weekend, Cal, second in the points to Drew Staveley. With the way things unfolded in the race yesterday, he's got himself a lead right now. He could get, in the first season he's ever had wins, he could get a championship.
Huge win yesterday, second on the year, went from a 7-point deficit to an 8-point advantage coming in here. 4th place finish today would clinch it, and that's if Staveley has a big day.
And as we're looking there at Drew Staveley in the number 12 GT Racing Ginetta, it's been an interesting weekend for him, Ryan.
It has, and this is a team that is kind of frustrated right now, guys. An unrepresentative 10th place finish yesterday. That's a bit surprising considering how strong Drew and this Ginetta has been all season long. I checked in with the team, and they said that they are dealing with more ballast by rule this weekend than they've ever run with that car before. Given the nature of that Ginetta, relatively lightweight, relatively low horsepower, they've struggled to get the handling and the performance the way they would like it this weekend. I did talk to the team owner, Ian Lacey, and he said, look, we're going to do our best. We have a championship on the line. We're not super excited about the way that this car is set up for this weekend, but they still have championship aspirations. They're going to try and get it done.
You bet they're never going to give up. And, of course, Drew already winning the Sprint X AM championship, so he'd like to double up as well. And this field is getting ready to go. 2 installation laps to make sure that they get good pressure and temps into the tires. And we are looking forward to this one going to green flag when we come back here to Watkins Glen International Raceway. Such an amazingly beautiful venue, and they are proud of it here in upstate New York. Deservedly so. Folks, while we're in break for our CBS Sports Network coverage show, great to have you back with us here. We just keep bringing these races in back to back. These things are coming at us in a hurry and absolutely loving it. This one, they're going to have 2 pace laps, 2 installation laps, if you will, Cal, to get this one going. And there's a reason for that. They've just been struggling, it seems, a little bit to get these Pirelli P0 sometimes up to pressure.
Yeah, I think with the overcast conditions we saw yesterday, with a couple of tire issues in the GT race, one certainly in this race. So just to try and make sure that the tire pressures are built up to where they need to be in the operating range, they're going to give everyone in the GT and the GTS races this weekend a second formation lap here, just to allow that tire pressure to build a little bit more.
And of course, this year the series in GTS running only GT4 homologated cars, and what makes this class, I think, so exciting is there's great performance in these cars. They're not quite as aero-sensitive as the GT3 cars, so you can run right up underneath somebody, and as a result, we've seen some phenomenal racing.
It's been spectacular. I mean, just massive fields this year. Lots of different manufacturers in with a shout of a win, so it's going to be a really fun day to watch once again. So a great battle here yesterday between the top 3 on the grid who finished in that order here yesterday, albeit Ian James has snuck the pole with a late fast lap. to start ahead of Jade Buford, but nonetheless you expect those guys to be duking it out. Harry Gottsacker, another strong performance. That young man has really had a brilliant season, so maybe the Sin can break through, but I'd expect the win to come from that top 3 somewhere.
I do too. I think the wild card here might be that white Mustang right there with the black nose. Patrick Gallagher filling in for Vinny Allegretta, and we know how quick Patrick is. That could be a fun one to watch as well. It's interesting too, isn't it, that this is an international rules package with GT4, all of these global manufacturers, and yesterday in the race it was 3 American-made manufacturers that win it. Obviously, that feels good at times too.
All on Forgeline wheels.
Yeah, there you go. We were talking about that as well. What a great partner there. There's the Patrick Gallagher. Very proud of the fact that he attended the Ohio State University. We always have a little bit of fun with it, but this young man can wheel it.
He can. That top 6 are really something else. It should be a great battle. We talk about James Buford and Larson Aschenbach, who finished on the podium yesterday. You got Harry Gottsacker up there. Gallagher, despite a DNF yesterday, will start from row 3 alongside our championship leader, James Safronis.
All right, we're going to lay out here. We'll be right back with our CBS Sports Network call. Round 8 of the Pirelli World Challenge GTS and GTSA Championship. The final round of the season about to get underway. Lights out in our BMW safety vehicle, and that means as they work their way around, Ian James in that number 50 Panos Avezzano GT will lead the field to green, and everybody's starting to pair up and get ready to go after it here. And obviously James comes in here, had fast lap yesterday, earns that pole position, 4th in the points. The problem is James Safronis, as you mentioned, has that little margin, but behind him, lots of things can be shuffling here. Everybody's going to be racing incredibly hard, and then that GTSA battle to boot. This next 50 minutes should be exactly what the doctor ordered in terms of excitement.
Yeah, and I'm sure for Jake Buford, looking for his 2nd win on the weekend, he'd love to do what he did yesterday on getting that run up through the S's and taking the lead into the inner loop on Ian James. James obviously wants to not let that happen.
Well, obviously pink works for Jade at this stage because it sure gave him a great run yesterday. All right, pace car is in, and we are ready to go racing. Ian James will lead them up. Buford absolutely as perfectly placed as you can get. That is a sharp-looking starting lineup. Watch for the green. There it goes, and Ian James gets a little bit of a jump. Gottsacker moves to the outside, but look at Lawson Aschenbach. He might be able to slice down inside Buford.
Yeah, but he was literally on the rear bumper of Ian James, waiting for him to take off. Side by side through turn 1 between Buford and Aschenbach. So the rest of the field streams through.
Now, still side by side. Buford, obviously, that outside run maybe could carry a bit more speed. Oh, they almost touch, Cal.
Yeah, that was a critical moment in that corner as well. That could have been carnage for everyone behind if they'd touched and had more major contact. Everyone settling in.
Now, up into the inner loop for the first time. Ian James, exactly what he wanted. Clear of everybody, but can Buford do the outside ramp again? He does it! Sideways!
Big catch right there. You can see arms and elbows inside the cockpit. Aschenbach tries to come back at him. Gallagher on the inside of Gottsacker.
Couldn't quite get through, but gave it a good run, Gallagher did, and Buford sits in 2nd as they head now down into the boot for the first time.
Championship leader James Safronis holds on to that 6th position. Just a nice safety margin between this 5-car battle up front.
Boy, and Mike Hedlund got a great start in the Opticoat Flying Lizard Audi. There he is, that red silver with sort of yellow highlights. He got a great start and has jumped into the lead in GTSA, in fact, getting around Shane Lewis.
Yeah, had a strong run here yesterday. Unfortunately, had to come in and change a tire. That's hurt him badly in the points, but he'd love to go out with a win. That Flying Lizard car is literally flying here this weekend.
And there's that black X Analytics entry. The Maserati of Jeff Courtney just in the back of your frame. Looked like he was under attack from Jason Bell, who has had another great start in that Grid Sport Global Motorsports Group Audi, the number 2.
Ian James, nice first lap. Timed the start perfectly, got the lead, had the advantage up into the inner loop as the pair behind him battled it out for position.
And Ian James comes through. See what that margin is. All that little bit of battling between Buford and Aschenbach has given James a little bit of a lead, although that's closed up a bit. But boy, Harry Gottsacker in that Racer's Edge Sin R1, and that car looks like it has come alive quicker than it did yesterday.
Yeah, he's a lot closer to the leaders than he was yesterday. He settled in nicely, had good lap times. Fourth fastest yesterday, but he seems to be a little bit closer to the pace in the early going today.
All right, things settling just a little bit here. Cal, let's go back and take a look at the start once again. And it was obviously played to perfection by Ian James.
They rolled up to the line. Looked like Lawson Aschenbach wanted a bump draft down the front straightaway. He's literally leaning on the rear bumper of Ian James as they're waiting for green.
Here is the look at it here, and as you said, yeah, look at Aschenbach. He wasted no time jumping up inside of Buford, did he?
Gallagher, a big move down to the inside. They go side by side with Gottsacker. Buford running the curve a little bit on the exit. And then it got really hairy up through the S's as Buford and Aschenbach battled it out for that second position.
Yeah, and it was interesting. Courtney just didn't seem to get to the throttle very quickly, and as a result, that's what allowed Hedlund to be able to slice through.
He's settling in now. These Pirelli P0s should be up to temperature, up to pressure. And as at this point, the drivers start to feel what they have underneath them for today's race.
And I'll tell you, an amazing start by Jason Bell. He started 7th in class here, and he has jumped up into 3rd in that Wells Fargo Global Motorsports Group #2. And he's been quick at times this season. He has been about as snake bit as it gets. He's had, what, 2 new cars and lots of rebuilds. He'd love to see a clean one unfold here. And for Drew Stavely, he's back right now 9th in class with Courtney 2nd. That's not going to get it done.
That will definitely not get it done. That needs to be a reverse order of those two
Exactly.
positions to get the swing back in the championship. As you said, Jason Bell having a nice season, making the move to GMG, finding his feet. He certainly has pace here this weekend.
Dropping back through some of the field, some of the battling that's unfolding in the GTSA category. Good look there at Tony Gaples. He too has put together a great start. In fact, he gets the Optima Batteries Best Start Award in that Black Dog Speed Shop Chevrolet Camaro. And at the end of the race yesterday, Tony was absolutely flying. He, in the last few laps, picked up, I think, 2 or 3 spots and parked it on the podium.
Yeah, and he moves up to 3rd place solo in the points. He and Mike Hedlund were tied coming in. Hedlund's tire issue dropped him back a little bit. Another podium for Tony Gaples, and he feels pretty racy here this weekend. And I saw him last night at dinner, and he said, there's a chance I can overtake Stavely in the points. So he's got his sights on 2nd in points here today. I
love to hear Tony with that kind of enthusiasm and energy. And it might have been lit just a little bit by the fact that the most recent round for the Pirelli World Challenge, the Sprint X season finale out in Utah, he eclipsed 200 starts in the championship, and he has been such a long-time supporter. Ian Black Dog. Here's a good look at your leader in GTSA right now, Mike Hedlund, in that Flying Lizard Optico Audi. And this is a track he just really seems to click here. He always has.
Yeah, he loves this circuit, loves coming back to Watkins Glen. Picking and choosing his race weekends, skipped a couple of races, but back for this finale, recognizing that he's very much in with a shout at the championship. Has to be a little bit disappointed about how things played out yesterday, but still enjoying himself. He's got Shane Lewis right behind him, and then Jeff Courtney, our current GTSA leader, right behind Lewis.
And there is Hedlund leading, and 2 cars behind him is Jeff Courtney, now your point leader in GTSA in that black and orange X Analytics Kenda Rexstuff Maserati from JCR, and he sits 2nd in the race right now. That is good enough for him, and obviously he's going to be playing that numbers game and knowing, okay, exactly where do I need to be, referencing everybody else around me.
Yeah, it's a big day for Jeff. For him to get this championship would be huge, and he's in the prime position right now. Just keep doing what he's doing. If Hedlund wants to get racy and try and keep the lead, let him have it. Let him have the day, but you'll win the battle.
So as Ian James continues to lead up front, it's Jade Buford in pursuit, yesterday's winner in 2nd, and Lawson Aschenbach in 3rd, feeling some heat from Harry Gottsacker. Welcome back, everybody. And Ian James has a little bit more of a margin than he's had it at some point, certainly in this race, certainly yesterday, as close as his racing was. And speaking of yesterday, Cal, it was an absolutely phenomenal race that unfolded in this GTS category. Let's take a look at some highlights. And as you can see at the start, Ian James on pole led down into turn 1. But Jay Buford in that pink number 55 PF Racing Mustang pulled off an amazing move to the inner loop.
What a run he had up through the S's, down the back straightaway, and takes that PF Racing Mustang to the front.
And once he got there, that lead trio that you're seeing right there were able to gap the rest of the field, built up a little bit of a margin, and put on a tremendous show. Other great racing, there's your points leader. James Safronis got into it with Gar Robinson in a back-and-forth battle. He had to be very careful, and the guy who was as spectacular as it gets, Nikolai Elganian, was unbelievable in the Marco Polo crossbow.
He was slicing and dicing. He had the GTS lead, and then coming off the boot, runs a little bit wide, narrowly escapes, tears out the inner fender. Eventually it dropped back a little bit as Courtney continued to hound him.
Courtney was able to eventually get through as Elganian was able to hang on for a top 3 finish. Back in the pack, Drew Stavely, the championship leader, coming in, struggling. And as we heard from Ryan Marine, they just haven't been able to get that car to work with the current VOP setup. And he was back a little bit. But on the last lap, Ian James, full attack mode.
He was, but Jay Buford would not let that lead be relinquished. Watch him here, sliding the car coming off the final couple of corners, and manages to hang on.
And he flashes by, pretty in pink, and the crew for PF Racing enjoying that moment immensely. And he certainly enjoyed the moment as he crawled out of the car. And for Jeff Courtney, that great finish propelled him right into the lead into the GTSA points, where he sits right now with an opportunity to perhaps clinch a championship as well. And as we come back to action here, and there it is. And we saw that 3-car breakaway happen yesterday, Cal. Not today. We got 5 cars pretty close.
5 cars right in the mix there, and this is what we expected. And we see James Safronis dropping back from this pack a little bit. I have to think he's got to be targeting the 50% mark in this race to ensure that he scores points, and then top 9 finish will do it wherever anyone else finishes.
You can see Ian James has opened that margin up just a little bit more. Then Buford, Aschenbach, and Harry Gottsacker are covered by the proverbial blanket here. Here's a look at now 19-year-old Harry Gottsacker and Ryan Marine. That team, in the latter half of the season, everything just seems to have gelled.
That's right. There seems to have been a real coming together with this team. Everything seems to be lining up. John Meraki oversees this operation for Racer's Edge. We were talking on the air about your young driver and how he's really come along in the latter half of this season. In your mind, what was the turning point? Where did it start to click for Harry?
Well, I think really by the time we got to Portland, everything it was cumulative from the season, and it really started to come together. And we really saw a change in him at Portland. He was much more confident. He really was sure of himself out there on the track. So I think Portland was a turning point.
And how about in this race? Does he have enough car under him to get up on the podium?
I don't know. The current state of the rules with our car after some changes, I'm not sure that we have enough car to get up front, but we're sure going to try, and I know Harry's driving his butt out there.
Yeah, he's doing a great job right now, knocking on the door of another podium finish.
Yeah, he is, and I'll tell you, the way that they have to go about balancing these cars with this VOP, certain cars, you know, if you're not running a turbo, you're not doing, there's certain things that you just can't do. For this Sin, it's done largely through just how much they can open the throttle. And they said, we could use a little more throttle opening just for responsiveness. We take a little bit more weight, and of course, there's always that ongoing negotiation with the sanctioning body.
It's an ebb and flow. So many different platforms in this GTS class, Greg, and certainly the Sin has great cornering ability, great braking ability. And you'd think against these big muscle cars up ahead of him, he's going to struggle a little bit in the straightaway, but he's not losing a ton of time. We've seen him there coming up that backstretch to Lawson Aschenbach, so it's not a big deficit. Certainly he's got a car that he's able to fight with here today.
He'll enjoy that, and then behind him, you'll see that white PF Racing Mustang with the black stripe of Gallagher, who yesterday had a bit of an issue late in the race and ended up, they had to park the car. And I know he'd love to be able to get out there and get up and mix it up, certainly capable as a driver. Then behind him is Safronis, and all eyes always on that number 14 here as we watch Patrick Gallagher whistle through turn 10.
This is a brand new race car they had to build up after Vinny Allegretta, the regular driver in that number 10 entry, had a big start line incident in the last round of the championship at Utah. So I know you're not feeling 100%, mate, but looking forward to seeing you back next season if you're watching.
Absolutely. He's a wheelman. We miss him being here for sure. Boy, Gottsacker really closing it up on Aschenbach. And I do want to point out that it looks like the number 45 of Hedlund is starting to attack a little bit behind this group on Sofronis in the battle for sixth. And we've said it before, but we have to keep repeating it. Remember, if you're one of the pro drivers here, you get scored overall. So if there's GTSA drivers in front of you, you don't get to just delete them out of the points column. And so if he gets around, here's that battle, and Hedlund is fast, that could push Sofronis back into seventh. And that's starting to get into that territory where you get a little nervous, especially when you got Hedlund looking and poking his nose in and out.
Yeah, certainly. And we certainly saw James hit the go switch yesterday about halfway through. He's going to have to do the same today. He can't afford to drop any positions. If there's any contact, he has a little off-course excursion. Suddenly he can lose those valuable positions that he needs to secure this third title on the year. But it's all dependent on Aschenbach winning for him to finish ninth. If one of the others was to score a victory, Buford or James, that would allow James to finish a little bit further back in the order and still claim the title.
Absolutely, and for the last few races here, Mike Johnson has been drafted into the team, who we know is a strategist extraordinaire, and you know that he's talking to James, and he's got it exactly dialed about where you need to be if this develops, if this develops. That's got to be comforting as well.
It is. You need a clear head on the box as well as inside the car in terms of just keeping you notified of every position change and just saying, you're in good shape here, push a little bit more, don't let the other guys get closer. It's all about just reading the race. Certainly James Sofronis will have gone through all of the calculations in his own mind even before the green flag here today. And he's a smart, savvy racer. He'll try not to take any chances. He went points racing yesterday, and he's trying to do the same here today.
And look at this margin now. Ian James is continuing to be able to draw away. Officially, this time he comes by almost a second he has in hand to Buford. Buford has almost a second in hand back to Lawson Aschenbach as well, with Gottsacker and Gallagher completing the top five. Ian James fittingly giving it a bit of welly coming through the boot here at Watkins Glen International Raceway as he continues to lead the season finale for the GTS Championship in the Panos Racing Avezzano GT. And there you can see the pink PF Racing Ford Mustang GT4 of Jade Buford. That's first and second. Then that great battle for third continues. Aschenbach cannot shake Harry Gottsacker.
He cannot. And I think looking at the dynamic of this race, thinking about yesterday, it seemed like Ian James was willing to let Buford have the head of the field and then come back in at the end of the race. He recognized yesterday he couldn't get by Jade Buford. So for today, it looks like he wanted to get that track position and maintain it early.
Get to the front, have a little bit of a margin, and then hopefully be able to drive that gap. That makes absolute sense here. And we'll see what Buford has. Is he conserving or anything? And it's an interesting dynamic with that Mustang, because your first thought when you think Mustang, you think pony car, you think horsepower, straight line speed. That's not the strong suit of this car just by the design of the platform, is it?
No, absolutely. When they put this GT4 car together at Multimatic, they really want the car to have good downforce, good handling ability, and that's exactly what it has. It's really good in the high-speed sections of this racetrack in terms of the corners and also the braking ability of the car as well. That's what downforce will give you as well. Good braking ability, planting those Pirelli P0s into the ground and getting the car to stop quickly. Doesn't necessarily have the strongest straightaway speed as some of the competitors out there.
And as we sit here, we watch the number one of Lawson Aschenbach, and that car too is a car that really excels in the corners and into braking, and Lawson is a great wheelman on it. But Ryan Marine, after Utah, it wasn't the smoothest of transitions to try and get that car and this team here to Watkins Glen, was it?
Yeah, a lot of work for the Black Dog guys to get here after the crash at Utah Motorsports campus. Let's talk about that first. Ray Sorensen, team manager for Black Dog. A lot of work went into getting these cars here, and you weren't sure Lawson's car was going to be right until it hit the track.
Yeah, it was really kind of a lot of work, not only between our guys, but body shop for bailing us out to get the thing straight and put back together. So, we kind of knew that we could, if we got it here, we could at least finish it. So we're happy to be at least a day ahead of the schedule, and we finished it to roll it in the trailer on Tuesday this past week. So yeah.
I came down here to find you at your pit cart. You had walked all the way down to pit out. What were you down here watching?
I was just watching Tony's car on entry down here. It just looks like it had a bit of a braking issue, so I just wanted to kind of see what everybody else was seeing, just kind of have a look down here for myself. So.
Appreciate the time.
Thanks again. Have a good one.
Well, I'll tell you, he is something special.
He really is. So many championships over the year with Lawson and certainly with Michael Cooper as well. So they run a great shop, and it's time to dig deep now and again in the championship season. Those boys at the shop really had to do a lot of overnight hours to get that #1 machine back here this weekend. And Lawson still got an outside shot at this championship, swept the first 4 rounds of the sprint championship, then had a diabolical home weekend at Road America for that team. 0 point scores in both races, and that's given him the deficit to James Safronis in the title chase.
Yeah, I was talking with Ray a little bit earlier, and he said he was really nervous, and when they finally got the car back, it got it up in the air, and he said it was all going to be down to when we tried to pull the cradle out for the suspension, and he said it just dropped right out. And he said, and I went, maybe this thing isn't tweaked. We might be able to make this work. A big sigh of relief, but still a turnaround.
Yeah, if you take all the nuts and bolts out and it still sits there, you know you've got a problem. It's a
exactly. A slight impingement. So, yeah, good stuff. And Lawson, but the interesting thing was they had no time to pre-test it, so that first practice session on Friday was when they kind of got a handle on it. And as Lawson had said, he said, I'll tell you what, these guys are amazing. He said the car was darn near spot on. Just had to start massaging on it a little bit. And Lawson able to hang on in third here to the ever-present Harry Gottsacker. This lead group of 4, though, now has dropped Gallagher a bit. He's about 3.5 seconds adrift of Gottsacker in that 5th spot. And here's a look at the number 88. We got a report here that clearly he has had some contact, Henry Schmidt has, in that BMW of San Francisco Steve Cameron Racing entry. And also apparently a bit of a close call for Drew Stavely as well, Cal. Going to have a look at that.
Stavely's day has certainly not been great in terms of his championship potential and trying to eat into that lead. Here we're looking at Mark Clennon coming through the inner loop. Here's a look at Stavely's car. And they're super deep.
Yeah. Really ran it deep. Watch this moment right here. And, look at that. Here's the 88 into the wall, and it was right in front of Stavely.
Wow. A lot of debris there, and
Sure
certainly that tire bundle protector has been torn up. Curious to see if the stewards think that's okay.
It was possibly loosened up by Nikolai yesterday.
That's right. That's where he tore the fender out.
So it may have just shredded a little bit easier. So Stavely escaping a big moment, but still only up to 8th in the GTSA category. And right now Jeff Courtney sits in 2nd. And I think Courtney kind of liking where he is in a way. Obviously he'd love to win the race, but Hedlund has himself a lead. Courtney sort of has 2 GTS guys on either side of him before he's got another GTSA contender that he has to deal with. And that puts him in good spot. But Stavely, we know what he can do, winning the Sprint X GTS AM Championship. Had a couple of overall wins during the course of the year, but just not quite there. And that man, Jeff Courtney, and we have to say it again, you've got to be impressed with what he's doing, because that Maserati is one of the older platforms in the championship. It has no ABS. It has no traction control. It's right foot and left foot for Jeff that's doing all that.
Yeah, and it'll be a magnificent season if he can pull this off and grab the title. George Kurtz is certainly having a good run behind him. He's gone around Jason Bell. He's now running 3rd in class. Well, for our former GTSA champion, really sort of like starting to come on. We thought he'd have a stronger season as he made the switch over to the Audi. It's taken him a little bit of a time to gain the confidence that he needs in that machine, but showcasing it here today, it seems.
Absolutely. Quick look there at the 64 of Gar Robinson. Then there's that battle behind this number of these 2 cars is the battle with George Kurtz that you were talking about. And he and their teammates, essentially, they both run under the GMG, the Global Motorsports Group umbrella that bring the car and prep them. And they have had a really nice back and forth battle. Bell got up into the third spot and held it for some time. And then George Kurtz was able to run him down. Kurtz in the CrowdStrike. There he is, the silver Audi with that red stripe. And CrowdStrike is extremely popular in terms of military, government, and big business cybersecurity system. And it's also a partner of the championship. And you wonder, what would the connection be with racing for that? Well, with hundreds to thousands of sensors on these cars, you can't store that data in a flash drive in your pocket anymore. It's got to be up in the cloud, and it's proprietary, and it has ended up being a really synergistic mix.
Yeah, it's really a wonderful company going places in a hurry. George is a great leader for that whole corporation, and he's a great leader here on the racetrack as well for his team. Really showcases the Pirelli World Challenge as a great platform to, problems here for the 40 car Pesic.
Yeah, the Co-College PF Racing Mustang.
This is on the exit of turn 1.
Sure is. You got to think there's been contact. That the rear deck lid and trunk lid is up, and full course caution. First one we've had here comes out in this final round, round 8 of the GTS Championship for the Pirelli World Challenge.
Sometimes those rear deck lids are just held down. They don't really actually secure them. If he's gone backwards, that could have just lifted it into that position.
That's a good point. Well, certainly the car is moving. He was able to get it restarted and drove it into a safe area. So, but the caution was called, so we have to get the field gathered up by the BMW safety vehicle. And while we are under a full course caution, we'd like to take the opportunity to remind you that you can follow all the news in the off-season of the Pirelli World Challenge by downloading the new Fan app. Go to the Apple App Store or the Google Play App Store and search for the PWC Fan app and start getting off-season information. You can also follow along on many other social media platforms. On Facebook, just look for PWC Championship. On Twitter, just search for @WC Racing. On Instagram, 2 opportunities, #PirelliWC or #Pirelli World Challenge. And as always, for all things Pirelli World Challenge, go online to the series website, world-challenge.com. So while we're in break for our CBS Sports Network show, glad to have you all with us here on the web and Sirius XM. And while we were under a caution for the moment for James Pesic, and I saw he was able to continue. He pulled off. They got that deck lid. I think you're absolutely right. I think he got backwards and just popped open and spun him around because he's back out and driving around the track. But while we're under caution, I think this is a great call. They decided to clean up that incident debris over at the exit of Turn 9 and get that barrier built.
Yeah, I think it's the wise move. You certainly didn't want to create a caution just to do this fix, but whilst you're down anyway, let's get everything reset. Plenty of time on the board, and for James Safronis, he'll be a happy boy. He's past the halfway point. No one will get points here today. And same thing for Jeff Corney, who leads GTSA, so they can maybe get a little bit more aggressive, but still got to maintain the positions needed to clinch the championship, which is 9th for Safronis, and that's if Oschenbach wins, and it'll be 4th for Courtney, and that's if Stabley wins, which looks to be a tall order with the pace that Drew has displayed here this weekend so far.
Yeah, absolutely. He's picked up a couple of spots, but it was because of Schmidt getting into the wall and such. So there's a look at the number 40, Co-College. That is the college that young James Pesic attended in Iowa, where he was a standout on the, it's an NCAA Division III championship contending football team. So he is a true sportsman, Mr. Pesic is. And great to have that team running in this championship. They're going to come in and give that car a look-see at this point. And I have a feeling that when we go back to green, that battle, the intra-team battle between Kurtz and Bell, those guys, Kurtz got by him, but Jason was not letting him go. And assuming that everybody is able to keep the tires and pressures and temperatures up where they need to be, I think that'll be rejoined in short order here as the PF Racing crew gets to work for James Pesic. We're going to pause. We will be, there was a little bit of a bump over there, Cal, and damage to that right rear corner. So we're going to pause real quick, and then we'll be back with our CBS Sports Network show. Welcome back, everybody. We are looking forward to going racing here in fairly short order as the lights will be going out on the BMW safety vehicle. And, you know, one of the things, we have some great partners in this championship. And obviously you've got marketing partners, but many of them are here for technical reasons to enhance their product. And when we talk to a number of the drivers in the GTS championship that use the products from one of these very special partners, they said what they learn benefits us immensely.
The reason why we're in motorsport is because that's the reason why we started, fortunately. We're all racers, and that's where you prove how well your wheels do.
You know, I've never had a wheel failure. I mean, never once. I mean, I've never had a forge line wheel failure, and I don't plan to have one because I know how strong, how robust these pieces are, and they're very important to not only winning, but winning a championship because, you know, in these days, you know, one race and you could be out of it for the whole season.
We do make a very strong wheel. It can come wheel-to-wheel contact, but they know me. They know that we can deliver a wheel quickly. They know we're going to deliver a wheel that they can trust. Part of it is the wheel, but part of it is the people. We know how to make a race wheel, but that makes us make a better street wheel as well.
I'll tell you what, you take a look, that's the order right now. Panos, Mustang, Camaro, wheels on those cars, all forge lines running 1, 2, 3. Coincidence?
I think not. That's quite the statement.
Isn't it? Absolutely.
Swept the podium yesterday and looking to do the same again today.
All right, and we are getting ready to go back to green, and whoa, Ian James decided to go fairly early just to get that little bit of a jump, and everybody trying to go with him here. But he'd picked the throttle up before they even got into turn 10. He wanted nothing to do with anybody jumping all over him here as we go back to green and head down into the 90, turn 1 at Watkins Glen.
Well, I think the same mentality we saw at the initial race start. He recognized that Buford is going to be tough to pass. He wants to keep the lead from the pole position, unlike he did yesterday.
And one of those scenarios where it's better to be out front and defend if you have to a little bit in this situation. Again, Harry Gottsacker just immediately starts attacking on Aschenbach for third as they whistle up through the S's here. Gallagher in the white PF Mustang behind him, and then Sofronis right behind him. And he's got himself a little bit of room back to Hedlund. He'll appreciate that.
Yes, for sure. And it's quite amazing to watch such a different race car. When you look at the Sin and the Camaro, two totally different platforms, but around this racetrack, they're so evenly matched. Typically, there's an ebb and flow where you see a big concertina effect with the different advantages of the platforms, but here today they seem to be pretty well matched everywhere.
Well, and that's one of the real challenges that the technical department of any series that uses the BOP concept has to master is you don't want to, you know, you want a relative same lap time, but you don't want them to get there so vastly different that it's unraceable. So you have to figure out how can we go and find the things that will actually make them perform fairly similarly all the way around the track.
Yeah, and it's just an adjustment. You can do it through power and certainly weight and things like that, ride height, handling ability. So It's just a constant adjustment to try and get everyone so that they say, like you just said, Greg, they race the same way.
And boy, I'll tell you, it didn't take long though for Hedlund to decide to amp the pressure up on Sofronis, and he is right back under that rear wing. The Global Motorsports Group Audi and the Flying Lizard Audi that is in the hands of Mike Hedlund right now. And of course, these days when you think Flying Lizard, you think Darren Law. I think Ryan's found him.
I have indeed, Greg. Let's talk to Darren about Mike leading in GTSA right now, and he's been knocking on the door of a really good result all season long. What would it mean to end the season with a class win for Mike?
You know, that would be the best way to end this program this year. You're right. He's done a great job this year, and he's been knocking on the door, and he's having just a superb run today. He's been running up front with all the guys, and he's leading right now. So, you know, we hope for a good finish for him.
That last full course yellow, good, bad, or indifferent for your strategy?
You know, I mean, realistically, we didn't want it. We had a good gap on the guys behind us, and obviously that closed the door to everybody. So that wasn't in our favor, but Mike's been running great, and he's right up on James's bumper, so we're proud of him.
Very good. Well, best of luck the rest of the way.
Thank you. Thank you.
We saw yesterday, Greg, was late in the going. He got behind Sofronis and suddenly dropped his lap times immensely. So I think Mike is one of those guys who's very coachable, very trainable. I think he's kind of getting a coaching lesson from James Sofronis in front of him in terms of how you drive one of these Audis around this racetrack, and he's able to hang on to him.
And now he's going to have a little lesson in defensive strategy because Shane Lewis, one of the most experienced drivers in the field in that 74 Ranch Camaro, the number 72 right there, all over the back of him. Then Courtney running second in class. And yeah, for Hedlund, 4 podiums this year, had a pole as well, but just hasn't been able to crack that win column. And that, as we've seen before, would be a great way to end the season. There's a look at Shane Lewis. And, boy, this man has driven about everything over a very long career and still has that speed.
He really does, and he's been a great mentor to the driver who's a couple of cars behind him, Gar Robinson. So they've formed a really nice team, led by Jimmy Fraser, crew chief and team manager there. Made the switch from the Mercedes AMG after a couple of rounds of the championship over to these Camaros, so they're a little bit late going and finding the sweet spot with these cars, but they've learned a lot this season, Greg, and I think coming out the box with the same car for next year, they'll be that much stronger.
Oh, without a doubt. Now, I always have to tease Shane a little bit. I've always called him the fighter pilot after the year he ran the Mosler Intruder with that split-screen windshield, and he got that thing going fast, too. That was a testament to what he's all about. And then behind him, of course, is Jeff Courtney. And Jeff's been racing in the Pirelli World Challenge for a very long time. He's done GT racing and the like. And now to have him have an opportunity in the year when he gets his first ever wins, got 2 of them, including one yesterday, to maybe get a championship. And then behind him is Gar Robinson, the teammate to Shane Lewis in that Robinson racing machine.
You know, I think for Jeff Courtney, he looks like he's got pace there. I think he could probably push a little bit further up this field, but he's got to think about that championship picture and the mentality of just bringing it home. Podium will certainly get the job done, even though Staveley's struggling a little bit more today. He can drop a few more positions, but just keep it clean. I think even if Gar Robinson starts to get a little bit feisty and racy with him, he's got to let him go as well.
Yeah, and I mean, Jeff's a pretty savvy guy, obviously. We've seen him with great speed over the years. He's had poles and the like. He just hasn't been able to quite put together that win. And be a great year for him, obviously, with the 2 wins. If he can also cap the championship. And as we said, he's pretty savvy. And in the background, you can see Jason Bell now has moved back up into 3rd and has cleared George Kurtz by a fair amount. So Jason Bell continuing to put together a really good race today in that Wells Fargo Reeves Motorsports and Grid Sport Global Motorsports Group Audi, as we go back to the front and watch Ian James continuing to just maintain that little bit of a margin here over Jade Buford, who sits 2nd, Aschenbach 3rd, Gottsacker and Gallagher round out the top 5. Ian James stretches the margin once again over Jade Buford in this battle for the final round of the 2018 season in the GTS Championship at the Grand Prix of Watkins Glen, presented by TM Performance. And you made the point a bit earlier, Calvin, that after what happened yesterday, you think that Ian's entire goal possibly was get in front, defend if you have to, build the gap if you can.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he just has had a different approach here today. I think yesterday he seemed to let Buford have the lead pretty easily into the inner loop, thinking that his car would be a lot stronger at the end. Certainly he came up on Jade, but left it a little bit too late. So I'm sure he went to bed last night ruining the fact that he'd given up the lead early and couldn't get it back. So he decided to try and take the race victory from the front.
And, you know, one thing that we haven't really addressed, we've talked manufacturers and we've talked driver championship. There are team championships as well. And you take a look at some of the numbers, and it looks like it would go Black Dog Speed Shop's way right now if Lawson can hang on to that third spot, which is a nice one to get as well for a team championship. I'm sure we'll confirm that, but I think that might be just enough.
Yeah, well, they came into this race, Black Dog Speed Shop, tied with GMG on 136 points, so certainly it's gone their way, but just one position change can change the order very, very quickly.
Yeah, it's very, very close, no question about that. And really, it's been an absolutely compelling season of battling for this championship, and the drivers that have been involved. We took a moment earlier and sat down with a few of them to find out about their thoughts on how this season has unfolded coming in to this season finale.
GTS, I think, is one of the most competitive classes in all of North America right now. For us, coming into this weekend, it's full bore. I mean, we know what the situation is, you know, a fairly large point differential that we have to overcome.
I love racing against guys like Lawson and Ian and Harry and Jade. Those guys have all pushed me, and I hope I push them.
We're coming into Watkins Glen right now with all cylinders firing. You know, the car's feeling really good right now in practice, and you know, our goal is still to win this championship. And even though we have a gap to the lead, you know, we're giving it everything we have, and we're definitely coming for James.
I'm a native New Yorker. I may live in California in the fluffy little western state there, but I'm a New Yorker, so little New Yorker will come out, I'm sure, when we go to Watkins Glen.
We've won championships in the last race of the year, and I have no doubt that, you know, this isn't over to the last lap of the last race.
Well, and Lawson's making that comment about this isn't over until the last lap of the year is poignant indeed, because you think back to what happened to him at Road America after that 4 wins in a row to start the season. Looked like, this championship's decided, and gets 0 points in both races. Something like that happens, this whole thing goes upside down. Obviously, it's looking pretty good for James Sofronis right now, but there is nothing certain.
No, and one thing that's certainly not certain is the manufacturer's chase as well. It came in here with 4 manufacturers within 5 points to one another. Great battle here as Calvert looks down to the inside of Tony Gaples there into the toe of the boot. A little bit of a slide there, dirt track, and coming off that corner. Calvert comes back at him.
This is the battle for 5th in the GTSA category. And these guys, absolutely a phenomenal battle. And Calvert's got that inside line. Calvert was able to pull out 2 Sprint X wins this year with some great late race activity, including a last lap pass for a win at Portland. And Tony Gaples is one of those guys who late in the race, he just is a racer. He doesn't always qualify as fast as he'd like to. He admits that. But he just gets up on the wheel during the race. And these two are battling. And Nikolai Elganian is right with them at this stage in that crossbow. He hasn't shown quite the speed today that he had yesterday, but he's finding it late in this race.
He certainly is, and he's debuting the 2018 spec crossbow here this weekend. Been playing with that truck, trying to get the electronics sorted out, but certainly put on a great display here yesterday and is coming on strong in the later stages today as well.
Yeah, he was just downright spectacular yesterday, and trying to work over Tony Gaples right now. You know, these two guys, Preston Calvert and Tony, just fun to watch them race like they did. Tony was just on it at the end of the race yesterday. I think picked up 2 spots late in the going to end up on the podium. And seeing he and Preston go after it here is a lot of fun with Elgahanian just kind of watching. And Elgahanian, and there you can see that the crossbow is one of those cars that just does not have big straight line speed, but it breaks about a mile later than everybody else.
This is where he's really good. We saw him yesterday coming out of the inner loop. Watch him roll speed through here. Just amazing. There he goes.
Working the outside. And Schmidt realized it, tried to float a little wide, and Nikolai said, no, you got to do better than that.
As we said yesterday, you sometimes catch the competitor off guard. They don't expect to be out there and just wash out and take your line, so you got to be certainly heads up and knowing where this young man is going to place his race car.
And this is a great scrap, but one of the big stories is at the back of it, that fifth car in that queue is Drew Stavely, and he just does not have an answer today. And that's unfortunate as he's just watching what's unfolding.
Schmidt back to the inside there, just uses the power advantage of the BMW over the crossbow. And certainly Stavely, Ryan talked about it, they just struggled a little bit with the weight and power of that car this weekend. I spoke to Tony Gaples about it last night. He said, yeah, for sure that Ginetta is struggling up through the S's. I was just eating them alive yesterday.
And that's a tough deal when you're in the middle of a championship battle, and it's just not quite there. It's these guys, though, putting on an absolutely incredible show, and it's all for fifth. You find people on the track, you start racing, and it's a lot of fun, even though it may not be for that win. The guy's going for the outright win. This group of four, as again, Ian James has himself a lead of almost a second over Jade Buford, about the same distance between Buford to Aschenbach, and a lot less than that to Harry Gottsacker in fourth. Ian James whistling down into the boots here at Watkins Glen, chased by Jade Buford. And the battle for the final podium spot, Aschenbach and Harry Gottsacker, continues. And it's interesting to watch how this unfolds, Cal, as we'll see the margins between those top three open up, but then they compress in other parts of the track. We drop back a few spots. Here sitting in sixth spot is James Sofronis. And with every lap that he completes, with every tick of the clock that moves along, he comes closer to pulling off a championship triple.
Yeah, it's just amazing. What a couple of years he's had. 25 years is it in Pirelli World Challenge competition. Got his first title last year, doubled up last year. Looking for 3 this year. It'll be 5 in the space of 2 seasons. Just amazing stuff.
That was a pretty good brain trust sitting on top of the Global Motorsports Group pit car wire, wasn't it?
Yeah, for sure. But one thing they will not like the look of is the Audi, who came into this race with the manufacturer championship lead. I don't think they're going to seal the deal, Greg, based on where they run right now. And I think looking at the permutations, we could have a tie between Ford and Panos, and then it will come down to a win tiebreaker at the end of the day if they remain the way they're running right now.
And that would, I would think, go probably to the Panos group, wouldn't it, at this stage?
It would, yes.
So
Ian's certainly been on a charge through the summer.
Well, what a story that would be. Obviously, their second year of competition in Pirelli World Challenge. Panos, and they had a tough start to the season. Their success has come later on in the year when they got a few things sorted in the car. And part of it is it's just a good platform. There's no question about that. Then you put a driver of Ian James' experience, let alone speed, behind the wheel of the car, and he has just been superb this year.
He really has. I mean, I think he's enjoying almost like a second life in racing. Certainly a young driver who's going places, but he's found a great home here in Pirelli World Challenge, found a great team with Don Panos and the Panos Racing operation led by Tom Milner, and they've got such a great group there, core group of guys and gals for that matter, who really put a great race car on the track for them.
Is it just my imagination, or has Jade Buford been able to find a little something here? He's half that margin, it looks like.
It certainly has, and that would swing the manufacturer title back to Ford. So whatever he's got in his pocket, he needs to deliver it right now.
And then Aschenbach and Gottsacker, that little battle continues as we are under 5 minutes to go in this 2018 GTS season. And as Buford closes up, the question becomes, did Ian James save anything to be able to march away just a little bit? And that's going to get answered here.
Well, he certainly saved a little bit for the end of the race yesterday, managing it from the front. How much has he had to push to keep that gap where it sits right now? He's pretty savvy. He's been so strong at the end of these races. He always seems to be in there fighting for the win. I think since May, Ryan said yesterday, he's either finished first or second. It's been quite the role for that team.
Yeah, absolutely it has. And the interesting thing is, I think yesterday he just left it 1 lap too late. Had he made that charge, because he certainly had the speed, I think he may have been able to pull it off. As he comes by, it looked like he'd half that margin, but the certainly the third sector of this track, he just seems to rule, and he stretches it right back out again to almost a second.
Yeah, and looking at their last laps, the 4 leaders were running laps within hundredths of a second of each other, and only a tenth of the fastest lap of the day. So the pace is really intense right now. Everyone putting it all on the table.
And this lead group of 4 now has opened up about a 5 seconds lead, excuse me, back to Patrick Gallagher in the number 10 entry. And then behind him, of course, is Sofronis, and that's the championship focus. Hedlund continues to lead in GTSA, and the Flying Lizard Opticode Audi sitting in second is Courtney in the 99 X Analytics Kendall Rextup Maserati. That would get it done for him. And Jason Bell got around Kurtz and has been able to open up just a little bit of ground on Kurtz here for the final podium spot. And boy, what a great story it would be after everything he's endured this year to have Jason Bell finally get himself a podium in this final round of the championship.
That would be very well deserved and certainly a celebration for him tonight. And what's curious, Greg, is I'm just looking at the fastest sector times on the day. The track is split into 3 sectors. Sector 1 is taken by Gar Robinson. Sector 2 by Alganian. And Ian James has Sector 3 in his pocket. So there's a lot of fast race cars throughout this field.
Yeah, and you love to see that variety spread around just a little bit, don't you? As we're watching now with 2.5 minutes as we're closing in on that marker for James Sofronis. And obviously, we've seen this play out before. You'd love to be up battling for the win and the like, but you've got a big picture think. And when 23 years in this championship for James, lots of wins, never a title. Gets 2 last year in GTA, and now could triple it up in this year. And he said, not a lot of time left for these kind of things to be happening. And he said just the fact that they are is just so special.
It really is, and they certainly had to sweat it out for the final Sprint X round. Remember what happened there at Utah, where suddenly Alex Welch was having some technical issues with the race car, and they thought they had the championship in the bag and suddenly found themselves out of position as we see this battle continuing. Preston Calvert there looking for a move on Alganian, and Tony Gaples is right in the picture still. Well, it's a good run here.
It is a tremendous run here. Alganian, that's coming up now on the back of Kurtz. This is for 4th, this battle, and he leaps down to the inside. Kurtz gives him a little bit of room, but Alganian just kind of taps that curb and unsettles the car just a little bit. But late in this race, Alganian, that car has come alive once again.
It really has. Yesterday we saw it in the first half of the race. Today it's the second half that he's showing great pace. And Drew Staveley's championship weekend goes from bad to worse. Looks like a flat tire on the left front.
Yep, that is exactly it. You can see it there. Oh, boy. Tough thing is we get a report from race control.
That's super tight. Wow, how did he miss him? It's a small race car, but the cap didn't even look big enough for the crossbow right there.
No, it sure did. And remember, he was behind Kurtz as they got out of turn 1. And look at him just sweep the outside of Gaples with that speed. But I think that was just the run up the S's where you're climbing, and that's a power section of the track. And those 2 big V8s were able to just motor on by him as we go back up to the front. And looking at Harry Gottsacker sitting in the 4th spot.
Yeah, and I thought we'd see this. Ian James set the fastest lap of the race on his last lap. So it seems like those Pirelli P0s are still working for these leaders, and everyone's pace is super intense. We saw a lap or 2 before that, everyone within a 10th of the fast lap, and Ian James has got the hammer down, just trying to stretch it and maintain the lead here.
Yeah, he has absolutely taken care of those tires as the white flag flies. One more lap in the 2018 Pirelli World Challenge GTS season, and Ian James rolling the throttle as he exits turn number, and a spin for Preston Calvert. And that looks like it's the turn-in for turn number 9. That's an interesting spot to have it going on. You wonder if there wasn't a little tap.
Yeah, well, there was a lot of action going on in that group of cars, so I wonder if he tried to get it to the inside and got pinched. Meanwhile, his teammate continues to lead overall.
And if Ian can pull this one off, I think it'd be his 5th win on the season. That's a pretty good story, even if he doesn't get the championship. It's a great story, and it could play nicely into the manufacturer's role as well here for this championship.
Absolutely, because that bonus point for the pole was crucial. And unofficially, at least, we think it would be a tie between Panos and Ford for the manufacturer's title, and it may go Panos' way in terms of victories.
And going back here, Vinny, the car that Vinny Allegretto started the season in after his shunts at Utah, Patrick Gallagher calling behind the wheel, is hanging on to the 5th place finish here. It was Sofronis right there in that blue Global Motorsports Group 511 Tactical Mobile 1 Thermal Club Audi. Figured last time in the season we'll get all the mentions in for him. And he's earned it, there's no question about that, as he's just playing the perfect big picture thinking game right now. And then behind him, Hedlund, might be getting that first big win of the year.
This is big for Mike Hedlund. Superb performance. Great to see him back here. And he just really hounded and shadowed James Sofronis these both races this weekend.
All right, on to the front straight. Checker flag flies, and Panos wins at Watkins Glen International. Ian James gets win number 5 on the year. There's the celebrations from the Global Motorsports Group. Pit, reason being, that's enough. 6th place for James Sofronis after pulling a double championship off last year, a triple this year for James and that Global Motorsports Group crew. What a great story, certainly for Ian James as well. Buford gave it all he could, but oh, look at this. I think Mr. Sofronis is going to revel in the moment.
See if he can produce 4 rings in donuts.
Yeah, there you go. The problem is which switch gets rid of the TC. There it is. Yeah, having some fun, and he's earned this. What a great story. And as you saw in one of the features, he said, I'm a New York native. Yes, I do. Yeah, he had fun with it.
Got half the job.
That obviously he's a New York native, and he and his brother 25 years ago created this team called Greek Brothers Racing, showed up at Road America in a little BMW in the touring car class, and that has led to an association.
Was it GBR back then?
Huh?
Was it GBR then?
Yes, there you go. Exactly. And this is an absolutely heartwarming story. As I said, Jeff Courtney has been racing this championship for a long time, had never had a win, gets 2 this year, including the one yesterday. And in that first year of wins also is able to come through for a championship. Of course, Drew Stavely is going to be gutted, of course, after a great run, but he's got one as well, so he's just sharing the hardware with Jeff Courtney, one of the truly nice guys in the paddock. And we're going to hear from our winners and champions when we come back. Well, again, all of you with us here on the web at world-challenge.com and on SiriusXM. Follow Jeff Courtney around for a little bit here, but tell you, it's been an interesting season, and you have to be pretty impressed with what we're seeing in terms of the competition in the GTS class. And again, I think a large part of that is because these cars aren't quite as aero-sensitive as the GT3 cars, and you can run right behind somebody through corners, get toes, be able to stay with them, not root the front tires up, and the racing has been superb.
It's been amazing. So many different manufacturers in with a shout of victory, so hats off to everyone who produces the balance of performance tables. I know it's a constant adjustment to try and match these cars up on the different circuits, but we saw some great racing there today. And when you see something like the Sin and the Camaro just running in the same step, in lockstep around this race circuit, that is really something to produce cars that not only achieve the same lap time, but the way they race in a very similar way is something else.
Yep, not easy to achieve, and great to see it when you do. There's Jason Bell, by the way. You know, we mentioned getting a podium. He had one at the first race of the season. He finished 2nd at the opener at St. Pete, and then after that, he has had one of those years that you just want to forget. But a finish on a podium at the end of the season will help that happen.
Spraying champagne is a nice feeling and taste.
Into the staging area for the interviews, out of the beautiful Panos Avezzano GT, a car that puts up one phenomenal sound, clearly puts up great performance, especially when it is wheeled by Ian James. He gets his 5th win of the year and crawls out of that beautiful machine. We think that might have been enough as well for Panos in the Manufacturers Championship. We'll confirm that. So a big day for Ian, a big day for Panos Racing as the helmet comes off. And Ryan Marine down there and ready to chat with our winner. And what a weekend it's been. 2nd yesterday, big win today.
What a weekend it's been. What a stretch of races it has been. Going back to May, you haven't finished worse than 2nd. 5th win of the season for Ian James. How about this run that this team has been on? It takes a special group to be able to be so consistent in a class that's this strong.
Well, first of all, I say hi to my wife, Kim. She's not very well this week, but she's on the recovery. So hi, Kim. That's for you. Love you. It's been great. I mean, you know, this team is just, they never gave up. We had some adversity at the beginning. But we've been finishing races, and we've been, fine-tuning the car. And when you don't crash and you finish races, you make the car better, you make it faster. But you saw how close it was. There was 4 or 5 cars there within a couple of seconds. It's GT4 racing at its best.
And a great way to go into the off-season. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely a great way to go into the off-season. And they're going to be enjoying the moment, no question. Let's take a look at our GTS overall results. James, Buford, Aschenbach, the podium. Gottsacker, Gallagher complete the top 5. The big story there in 6th. James Safronis, that is enough for him to get that championship. Hedlund, their 7th overall. Good run for the GTSA winner. And nice to see him be able to put that one together. 9th, 2nd in GTSA, the gentleman who will be champion in that category. So lots unfolding in that top 10, no question. But for this guy, Ryan talked to him yesterday when he got number 2. Now he gets to talk to him when he gets number 3. Ryan?
A championship triple play for James Safronis, sweeping all available championships in GTS this year for GMG. What an impressive season. I know you waited a long time, James, for that first championship to come last year, but what a roll you're on right now.
Well, this feels good. I definitely had a better car today, but I had to be smart. Wanted to race up front, but knew that I, didn't want to take any chances. So much effort has been put into this program with the GMG guys and Audi supporting it. Didn't want to throw it away with an unnecessary move. You got to thank guys like George Kurtz from CrowdStrike. He's been with me the last 2 years. He's become a good friend, and his company has really helped support this program. So this is a testament to all the guys at GMG Racing, all the effort. It feels good. I turned 50 this weekend, so I can't wait to come home, celebrate with all my friends and family. Hi, Nargis, Jensen, and Chloe. I love you guys.
A nearly picture-perfect season. Well done.
Thank you.
Oh, man, you could hear the emotion. And look at that. They had their own champagne ready to go. That's probably some sparkling something out there in pit lane, but what a great reaction. And it has been a great season. And this team is so dedicated to this series for so many years. Now we look at our GTSA results, and again, Mike Hedlund, what a story for him here to come here to Watkins Glen. And you heard Darren Law say he's just been on it all weekend long and pulls out the big win for Flying Lizard and Audi. But Jeff Courtney sitting there in 2nd. That's enough for the championship, and Jason Bell earns his 2nd podium of the season, bookending what's been a rough one. So lots of neat stuff happening. And Nikolai Elganian, going to be fun to watch him race as this category continues here. I want to remind you that our VP Racing Fuels Hard Charger Award winner, the number 62 of Mark Glennon in the Premier Copier McLaren, up 5 spots over the course of the race. So congratulations to Mark and the KPR team. But let's get back down. Opportunity here. All right, let's get back down to pit lane where Ryan Marine is standing by with our GTSA winner.
Congratulations, Mike Hedlund, a victory. You've been knocking on the door of a really good result for a while. I talked to Darren during the race about just that. How special is it to finally get that breakthrough win this season?
It's a perfect way to end the season. We've had some ups and downs. We've had some really good speed, but we've just had some bad luck. We've had multiple punctures and contact and all that kind of stuff. So it's really good for the team, all the hard work they put in all year, the late nights to get a win for them. It's perfect.
And how was that race? I know you had the full course yellow that closed that gap a little bit. Did that change your calculus at all?
It did a little because the Camaro behind me is really good at the start of a run. I think because they drop off the tire at the end. So I just wanted to stay ahead of him for a couple laps, and then I knew we would, I think, get a gap. And then I was battling with James a little bit. But I knew I was in the lead, so I didn't want to get crazy. But I really wanted to beat him, but couldn't do it today. Maybe next year.
Hey, still a really good, strong result. Congrats.
Thank you.
All right, well, I'll tell you, an absolutely fantastic weekend for Mike, just up on the wheel the whole weekend long. Pretty spectacular stuff.
It really was, and great to see him suddenly find victory lane, because it's been a long grind for Mike Hedlund. He's a great driver, great competitor, and he had it all click together here this weekend.
And there you see victory donuts at James' turn. And one of the things that you noticed, obviously, in the back of all those interviews with the Audi drivers, a guy named Brad Kettler, who oversees the Audi Sport Customer Program and is a huge contributor to the success of all these teams. So, well, that's going to wrap things up here for our 2018 GTS season in the Pirelli World Challenge Championships. I'll tell you, it's been a great year. GTS racing is something special. Can't wait to see what unfolds in 2019. Hope you come back and enjoy it with us throughout that year. For Calvin, Ryan, and our entire CBS Sports Network crew, I'm Greg Creamer, and in association with WC Vision, this has been a presentation of CBS Sports Network, the 24-hour home of CBS Sports.